SSL has been on a roll lately. From their control surfaces to the SSL-18 audio interface to their plugins to the Revival 4000 channel strip, they've just had great stuff coming out one after another, and the latest from them is super cool. It is the Super Analog channel strip that was found in the original SSL SL9000J console. Now this channel strip offers some amazing features. It's so flexible, can do so much. It really is a do-it-all channel strip. Let's take a closer look. The SSL 9000J was introduced in 1994. It followed the SSL 4000 series. Now, the SSL 9000J had a different approach. It was intended to be completely transparent, to have extremely wide bandwidth and extremely wide dynamic range, and there were a couple ways that it accomplished this. First of all, there were no electrolytic capacitors in the audio path. It also had DC coupling, fully balanced mix buses, short cable runs, or short signal path runs, I should say, inside the console. It used oxygen-free copper cabling, so there were a lot of things that went into making this a very transparent and very wide bandwidth flat response console. In fact, the theoretical bandwidth was something like 5 Hz to 500 kilohertz. In practice, when the 9000J came out, it was doing something like 10 hertz to 80 kilohertz or something like that. And when the K came out in 2004, it did from 10 hertz up to 120 kilohertz, so extremely wide bandwidth. There also was an entirely new super analog preamp design that again was designed to be super clean, super transparent. The SSL-K console, again, that came out in 2004, was set up for a fully surround 5.1 mix bus, returns, and so on. The automation had been greatly enhanced, so these consoles really took a big leap forward for SSL. So you had two choices of SSL at that point, basically. You could go back and get one of the older SSL 4000s. Those had more grit, more punch. People loved them for rock productions, for early hip-hop productions, and so on. They just sounded so great for that type of music. When the 9000 came out with its more transparent, wider bandwidth, higher dynamic range sound quality, that was great for pop, for more modern sounding things, modern hip-hop, those types of sounds. Other features in the 9000 included a dual mode EQ that could go from E series to G series modes, and we'll look closer at that when we talk about the channel strip. The dynamics section was also enhanced, both on the individual channels as well as on the master bus. There were around 190 of the SL9000J consoles sold, and about 55 of the XL9000K consoles sold. So not a ton of them were out there, but now you can have the sounds and the features of the channel strips from those consoles right here in the new Super 9000 channel strip from SSL. Moving across the front panel, there are a ton of features to explore here. We start with the input section here on my far left. This is actually a dual mic pre. We've got the SL9000 mode, which is going to be that transparent mic preamp mode. Then we also have the VHD mode. Now this is the same preamp as is found in the Duality console, the Duality built on the 9000 series. And this preamp gives you variable harmonic drive. You can adjust it between second harmonic and third harmonic modes on this. We'll take a listen to that in just a second. We also have two input impedance settings for the microphone preamp, 1.3K and 11K, and this can affect the sound of certain microphones when you connect them up. Of course, we have 48 volt phantom power, we have polarity invert, we have a pad, and so on. But let's listen to that preamp in action. We're currently using the SL9000, the very transparent mic preamp. Now, if we switch over to the VHD setting by pressing this button, and now we see the meter up here illuminating. That tells us how hard we're driving that harmonic drive of the VHD style preamp. And we can adjust the sound of that by moving the drive control. That goes from second harmonic, when we rotate this direction, comes back around over here to third harmonic, which is going to give us a little harder tonality out of it. And of course, this really depends on how hard you're driving the preamp as well. You can see the meter here across the top showing how hard we're hitting that VHD preamp. There are separate input connections on the back for microphone and for line level inputs. So you could leave your microphone connected to this and also have your DAW connected to this, and then you choose which one is feeding the channel strip using this switch or microphone. An interesting feature of the Super 9000 channel strip is the input flip switch, which is found here over in the master section. What this does is basically reverse those connections on the back so that the line level input feeds into the preamp, and that allows you to use the VHD coloration on your line level signals, say coming back from your DAW. Next up in the signal path, we have our dynamics section. Now, there are two parts to this. Of course, we have the quintessential noise gate expander that you'd find on the SSLs. That's over here in this part of the dynamic section. And over here we have the compressor section as well. Now, the compressor section can operate either in soft knee or in hard knee mode. You select that using the peak switch here. You can also set up fast attack or slow attack. We've got control over threshold, ratio, as well as release time. For the classic gate expander section, of course, you can switch between gate and expansion. We also have a hold control. We've got our threshold control, and then we can also set this up for fast attack. Following the dynamic section, we have the filter and EQ section of the channel strip. We have high and low filters, and we also have 4-band EQ, and the two mid-range bands are fully parametric. Interestingly, our high-pass filter has a steeper slope. It's 18 dB per octave, while the low-pass filter has a smoother or more gentle slope at 12 dB per octave. To increase versatility, you can also position those high and low-pass filters right at the input, or in fact, you can put them into the sidechain of the dynamic section. As I mentioned, we have a 4-band EQ. The two mid-bands are fully parametric with gain, frequency, and bandwidth. Now we can switch these between E and G modes or between pink and black modes. Those were found on the 4000 series consoles. When you're on E mode, you have variable Q. That means that the bandwidth actually changes as you boost and cut. When you're in black mode or G mode, the bandwidth stays the same, so it's a constant Q design. That means that it's a little bit more surgical, so even when you boost a lot, you're still getting a fairly narrow bandwidth out of that. The two mid-bands, the low mids and the high mids, also have switches that allow you to basically divide the frequencies or multiply the frequencies by 3. So this greatly expands the range of those two mid-frequency bands. You have your low band, your high band, and then those mids can either sit more in the mid-range or you could drop one down very low and one up higher to address specific regions if you need to. Following the EQ section, we come to the routing section of the channel strip, getting over here toward the right side of the panel. Now, there are a couple of things you can do here that greatly increase the flexibility and the versatility of the Super 9000. First up, as I mentioned, there's input flip. So that sends our line input through the preamp. Going back to the EQ section, we can also choose to put the EQ into the sidechain signal path. And the dynamic section can be positioned either before the EQ or after the EQ using this switch. I mentioned the sidechain, which controls the operation of the dynamic section. There is an external sidechain input as well. You can address that by hitting this switch, and if you have two of the Super 9000 channel strips, you can link them together for stereo operation with this switch. Finally, we have our output section, and it has some additional features hiding there as well. On the back panel, we have two balanced jacks for a send and return insert loop. And we can also choose to either have that stay where it normally is in the signal path, which is right after the preamp, or by hitting this switch, we can put it right before the output section at the end of the signal path. This allows you to insert balanced external gear either at the beginning of the signal chain or at the end of the signal chain. And finally, we can select on the meter whether we're looking at input or whether we're looking at output. If you're looking for the biggest sound, the widest bandwidth, and the widest dynamic range from an SSL channel strip, the Super 9000 definitely delivers it for you. It's so versatile. That dynamic section with both compression and gating expansion, that incredibly versatile EQ and filter section, the ability to drop an insert point either at the beginning or end of the chain, the fact that we have two completely different preamp voicings, you're going to find that the SSL Super 9000 channel strip delivers everything that you need to get great sounding recordings. For complete information on the Super 9000 channel strip or any of SSL's products, head over to sweetwater.com or contact your Sweetwater sales engineer.